Hello, my name is John Corso, and I am with the VA Office of Enterprise Integration, Integrated Enterprise Planning Service. Welcome to this presentation on stakeholder validation of organizations' business functions. In this presentation, I will be taking you through the process of validating your VA organization's business functions using the VA Business Reference Model, or BRM. The purpose of this presentation is to help you participate more effectively in validating your organization's functions and activities. The BRM is an artifact of the Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework, or FEAF, prescribed by the Common Approach to Federal Enterprise Architecture, published May 2, 2012 by OMB, pursuant to the Clinger-Cohen Act of 1996, OMB Circular A130, and other statutory and regulatory requirements for federal enterprise architecture. The BRM supports architectural analysis and reporting in the business services sub-architecture view of the overall enterprise architecture. The BRM is a conceptual model in that it directly maps an organization's line of businesses and business activities to services within and between federal government organizations. It provides a functional rather than structural organizational chart view of federal government organizations and their lines of businesses, including mission and support business services. The BRM describes an organization through a taxonomy of common or shared mission and support service areas instead of through a stovepiped single organizational view. The BRM therefore promotes inter- and intra-departmental collaboration and serves as the underlying foundation for shared services strategies. The BRM is only as useful as the accuracy of its depiction of VA's business operations. Your input is required to ensure all business functions and activities are represented on the model, and that applicable definitions of terms used are adequate. The next step to VA's development of its BRM is therefore your validation of your organization's functions and activities within the model during the validation session we have scheduled for you. Your contributions will help VA to serve veterans more efficiently and effectively. The BRM, one of 6 reference models within the Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework, is a powerful tool. It allows VA to align its business activities to VA's strategic goals, objectives, and strategies. Relationships among capabilities, functions, business processes, systems, performance measures, data, and information flow, and their responsible and executing organizations and their external partners can be identified and depicted in the model. This depiction allows visibility of the information necessary to support resourcing and portfolio management decisions. The Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework allows federal agencies to appropriately tailor and shape their own enterprise architectures as required by OMB Circular A130. Business architecture is the key component under the FEAF, which relates VA's approach to its business operations. It involves using the BRM as its integration point for business architecture. This diagram shows how the various elements of VA's business architecture are linked to or aligned with the BRM. Moving clockwise, starting from the upper left-hand corner of the diagram, we see that the strategic content component of VA's business architecture represents the primary driver of VA's business operations. Strategic goals and objectives inform strategic requirements, generating mission requirements that must be executed by business functions. This activity is governed by laws, regulations, policies, and directives, or LRPDs. VA builds its capabilities and functions through the programming and budgeting process depicted in the upper right-hand corner. These capabilities and functions are in turn supported by a portfolio of information technology systems that enable their day-to-day operation via the people and processes that define them and their interoperation with stakeholders, partners, and other business activities within VA, depicted in the lower right-hand corner. The people and processes required entail resource expenditures for their operation. Risk management identifies, monitors, and controls risks in light of the environmental factors and constraints VA operates within. Finally, performance measures as governed by the annual performance planning and reporting process, the monthly management review, and the OMB 300 performance measurement process allow VA to monitor and report on its performance goals as it executes its mission through its business operations. This is the final step in a management feedback loop that allows VA to manage for results and adjust its strategic and operating plans appropriately based on evaluation of ongoing performance. Your validation session will consist of examining the subset of the BRM pertaining to your organization. We ask that you review what it contains and advise us what changes should be made to the model as a result. We will make the changes to the BRM during the session and provide you with a copy of the revision. You will receive a spreadsheet that lists the activities for each office within your organization as described in the Functional Organizational Manual. OEI has conducted a preliminary mapping of these activities to the BRM business functions, which needs to be validated by you and other stakeholders and SMEs. Desired outcomes for the validation include: we ask that you map activities to the lowest level possible in the BRM. We ask you to identify any gaps. For example, where an activity or function performed is not represented in the BRM, you should call that to our attention. Finally, we ask you to identify recommended changes to any definitions that would enable better alignment to an existing business function. Your conscientious effort in this process will help protect the department from misestimating the cost of performing an activity in terms of administrative, FTEs, and technology due to an incomplete or otherwise inaccurate set of business functions. OEI is happy to work side by side with our stakeholders to perform the mapping validation exercise. Or, if you prefer, you can do the validation and send the spreadsheet to us for adjudication. The BRM is organized by functions, for example, acquisition, finance, HR, not by organization, but each function is traceable to one or more organizations by entering the VA Enterprise Architecture Repository, or VEAR, through the organization's domain. Accordingly, the VEAR contains and depicts that portion or portions of the BRM applicable to your organization. Among other uses, the BRM is a valuable tool for completing the Capability Requirement Proposal, or CRP, required by OM for programming the budget as follows. Review your organization's functions and activities. Group the functions in a logical manner. Determine the required resources for the functions, for example, FTEs, contract dollars, as prompted by the CRP. And finally, prioritize the functions as required by the CRP. Once we have completed the validation with each office, the next step will be to develop a use case that will test the ability of the BRM to support VA decision-making and development and refinement of planning and programming artifacts such as CRPs, as mentioned in the previous slide. Any remaining gaps in the linkages depicted in the diagram from slide 4 will be addressed at that time. Once these refinement steps are completed, the BRM will be positioned to be a tool that VA can use as an integral and regular part of its annual operating cycle. Thank you for your contributions and participation in this crucial validation process. We will work with you to address your questions and concerns as we proceed with the validation sessions.